There's a lag spike right there. There we go. Frame drop. That means we're starting. That's what I'm talking about. Will it last though? I hope not. I think we're alright. I think we're good now. Okay. This is not going to be a very long stream. For multiple reasons. One, I'm moving tomorrow, so I have to do a lot of packing tonight. And I don't want to spend too much time on this and then miss my window of opportunity to move when I want to tomorrow. Second of all, and this is kind of related. Uh, I'm sitting in a metal folding chair using a plastic tub as my place to put my mouse, and it's very uncomfortable. It hurts my ass quite a bit, so I'm just gonna. I think I'm going to, not try to do this too long. But I haven't streamed in a couple days. I wanted to stream, and I guess I wanted to talk about some stuff as well. Uh, that stuff being, of course, if you don't know about it already, that stuff being uh, what popular YouTuber and streamer Josh has tweeted on his alt and main accounts. Um, it's very interesting seeing what he says, seeing his reasoning behind it, what he says, and seeing the responses to what he says. Um, and I'll get into that in a second. But I just want to say first before but I get too far into the stream. I'm gonna be moving, obviously, like I've already said, pretty soon. Moving in Washington, currently in South Carolina. So it's a pretty much cross the country kind of trip going on. Um, on the way, I plan on visiting my family for the holidays. Probably gonna need a COVID test before I get there, just to make sure I'm safe. Make sure I'm not, exposing myself. Correction, exposing anybody else to um, something I might have, i.e., COVID. Really is the main issue, the main concern. Um, so yeah, I guess we'll jump into this. My plan is just to read the main, the key tweets, I guess, of what I think are the crux of the issue, uh, and then I'll probably go mining a bit while discussing what I think about it. So to start off, on his alt account, Josh says, this is yesterday, almost at midnight about yesterday. He says, if you are a Stan or part of a Stan Twitter group or participate in any activities associated with the culture, please unfollow. I cannot tolerate any longer and wish to have nothing to do with it. I don't care if it has to do with me or somebody else, the culture is toxic. He goes on next to say, every experience I've ever had with the community is negative. I'm sick of looking at Instagram and seeing that I am tagged in yet another edit made with some garbage phone app. I'm tired of random people obsessing over me, and more so obsessing over people such as Dream. He, right here, specifies, of course, Dream, the big man Dream. Which isn't a cheap shot because Dream is he's the fastest growing Minecraft YouTuber. He pretty much brought about the second wave, not second, but third, fourth, whatever, the new wave of Minecraft revival. So to specify him, to single him out, is not really uncommon. It's not really out of nowhere. If you're going to talk about any large stand community, you're going to talk about Dreams because his is the biggest. He himself has spawned not only his but other people's rise to Twitch and YouTube fame as well. Not to say those people can't hold their own, but he definitely helped expose them to a larger audience than what they had before, which is how a lot of people get around. Not a lot of people get found. People build their community. So it's not a shot at Dream. It's just he's using him example as he could. It's a common example to what the point he's trying to make. He then says, any community in which group cohesion is placed above the rights of the individual to speak and think freely is inherently evil. The same community is a manifestation of this. Then he says right below that, the same community is some kind of pseudo-authoritarianism in which the authority figure is actually a figurehead, and the true tyranny is perpetrated by the majority. I guess perpetuated work there. The majority, the mob, he says. Same concept applies to every single community centered around so-called political commentators and pundits on the internet. He's talking about, people are like diehard fans of politicians like Trump or Biden or blah, 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 blah. Their communities function in much the same way. I do not need to name names. You know who these people are. Okay, well, I guess I just named names, so my bad. Stop idolizing internet personalities. I don't care who they are. I don't care if you think they're funny or you agree with them on politics or whatever. If they permit a collective like this form, if they permit to let a collective like this form around them and they allow it to not only continue but to grow, they are monsters. Kind of harsh, but it gets his point across, I guess. He then says some more tweets, finishes up on his alt, and goes on to his main Twitter, where he quotes his initial tweet on his alt, shares it to his main Twitter, and then says some additional thoughts to clarify on his main account. So on his main account, continuing from here, he says, this is today, he says, I'm going to put this as concisely as possible so that nobody misinterprets this. Stan culture is bad. It is a collective that shuts down critical voices and the ability for one to think and speak freely. This has been made self-evident by the events of the last night. Talking about people responding to his replies on his alt from last night. Stan culture is a bubble in which many people who have struggled with mental illness do not receive the help they need. Rather, issues appear to be fed by an obsession with a particular individual. People are saying, I hate people who simply enjoy something, and that is not true. He then explains his reasoning for specifying Dream earlier. He said, I use Dream as an example of someone who was put on a pedestal, never implied that he himself was purposely causing Stan culture to proliferate for his own profit. However, in one reply to a person, I did say there was a good chance it was the case. I said that the Stan community is tyrannical because it is. It controls its platform with an iron fist by the means of mob rule. This again is self-evident. Dissenting voices are crushed by the mob while control of the trending page remains in their control. Talking about the Twitter trending page. Because for a few months now that has been ruled by almost nothing but the effects of Minecraft streamers. Which is cool to see if you want to capitalize on that, but also disheartening to see if you want to actually try to get some real news out in the world from that. Though that shouldn't be your primary place to get news in the first place. Where was I? When I said that people in the community are mentally unwell, quote unquote, it was due to their own admission, with hyperfixation being the primary cause of their participation in the community. My point was being a stand is not a healthy way to cope with these issues. I wish nothing but the best for the members of the community. I hope they can mature or find the help they need to leave this godforsaken place. The culture, not the people who participate in it, is evil. It has been made abundantly clear I was correct in what I said. Still referring to the replies he had gotten from the night before on his previous tweets and just his interactions he had with other people in the past. If I regret anything, it is for coming off perhaps too harsh. However, I stand by everything I said. I never insulted anybody specifically. I was mad and attempted to remain civil. That is at least more than some content creators are able to do. That's fair, A lot of people, that last point is fair. Some people don't stay civil very easily. I felt, though he came out with a pretty hot take that a lot of people didn't like, he has stayed pretty civil throughout this. A little, very slightly caustic, but he hasn't been openly aggressive towards any person, He just continues to elaborate on what he said. He isn't targeting anybody to dissents his point or anything like that. From what I can tell, that might not be the case, but from what I saw, it's not the case. He finishes out, closes by saying, I'm sure I made some mistakes along the way. Somebody would, since we are all human. However, in totality, I have little to no regrets. I hope this has cleared up the matter for some people. I know others will not listen and make it further evident that what I said is true. I wish all of you the best. I do not regret tweeting anything. This is something that needed to be said by somebody. I know these content creators who profiteer off of it were not going to be the ones to do it. Take care, everyone. This is the last I have to say on the matter. Okay. That is all he says on the matter, as he stated himself. So, no one really cares for my thoughts on this, but if somebody happens to see this, I'm going to give my thoughts on it anyway. Anyway, I guess. So, me, fuck. Where was it? Yeah, so he initially talks about, he doesn't initially talk about it, but in one of his concluding statements, like I said, he talks about content creators profiteering off of Stan Twitter, and them probably not saying anything about it. This is, I want to say this is kind of true, only because I looked at the replies to his thing and nobody fully sided with him, which means one of two things. Either they think he's too extreme in what he says, or they don't want to anger their Stan Twitter, I guess. A lot of the replies were dissenting from fellow creators. A lot of them, like Dream himself, said this is stupid or something. He said you are an idiot. I'm pretty sure is what he said. That was one of the big ones I said. I saw somebody else say some other things, but people mainly think he's basically lost his cool and he's just kind of going crazy. I remember Charlie Slimesicle. He said that he appreciates what the Stan community has done, but he sees kind of an unhealthy hyper fixation on some things, or some people have an unhealthy hyper fixation, and he hopes that they can. While he likes Stan Twitter and he likes what they stand for, he hopes these people who have what might evolve or already is an unhealthy fixation can step back and try to improve their mental state. I'm pretty sure that's like roughly what he said. I'm not looking at it right now, but I did read it like right before. So yeah, yeah. So I have a couple things to say on this. A big thing I've hated for a long fucking time is cancel culture. Cancel culture is probably the worst fucking the worst trend, I guess, in the last 10 years at least. Because here's the thing. Okay, let me say this first. I feel that Stan Twitter and Stan communities in general are the major, I'm going to go mining now, I guess, are the major major propagator, rather, probably, that's better, of cancel culture than anybody else, any other kind of community, Because when you have that kind of hyper fixation on a person or issue, and somebody says something, or has done something that you don't like, that causes some kind of friction between what you stand for or what the person you hyperfixate stands for, you want to find a way to destroy them. And I'm not saying that, this isn't something I'm making up. I'm saying this because this has happened numerous times before with multiple Stan communities on the internet. Yeah, and here's the thing. Everybody's done, once you reach a certain point in your life, they're not going to be 10 and saying this probably, but everybody's done something they regret at the time, and they will probably regret for the end of their life, and they will never forget. And maybe that thing will change, That thing doesn't have to be constant, but that thing is going to be there regardless, whatever it is, even if it changes or doesn't. And for you to want to have your stake in a certain community, for you to like a certain community, just as much as, perhaps a Stan Twitter or Stan community person likes that community, and to want to be a part of it, to want to thrive out in the real world, in a public figure, and to be shot down because of something you did years and years ago when you were a way, way worse person than you are now, and you've beat yourself up every day since, and you've improved past, and you've possibly already taken punishment for, is kind of really fucking caustic and really just gross. So it kind of hinders growth by doing that, if I killed, this is very exaggerated, obviously, but if I killed somebody, I went to jail for it. Well, actually, no, I guess it's not good. If I said something bad, if I said something ignorant a long time ago, if I said something ignorant, like, you know, some racist or sexist thing, and I was proud of it at the time, right? And I let it sit there, I let it marinate. Nobody notices it because I'm just a normal person. Then later I learned, wow, I really fucking hate that I said that. This is not very good. You delete it, I guess you could do. It's probably the smart move. You take care of that and you say, I'm never going to say anything like that ever again. Right? Then you try to do something. You try to grow, thrive, you try to make something of yourself, right? And then everything's going normal, everything's going great. Then one day, while you could be genuinely helping people, genuinely making people's lives better, one person says, hey, I found this old tweet, I'm pretty sure this is you. A bunch of people who don't even have an opinion about you jump on and say the same thing about you, It's kind of hard. It's kind of annoying, It sucks because whatever momentum you've built up can just be flattened instantly, I'm not sure, I know, or I guess I am sure. I've done things in the past that I'm not proud of. Everybody has, right? And if somehow I get relatively popular, I grow a sizable audience, and then and then something I did is drug back up. When I've already punished myself for it, I've already been punished by other people for it, I beat myself up about it every day, and I've already learned to be a better person, then, I guess that's it. For me, that's probably it, That's the end of it. I've had my day in the sun. It's gone now, and I wouldn't honestly mind. This is, I'm not trying to make a living off this. This isn't what I want to do with my life. This is something I enjoy. My bio says I do this when I'm bored. I do this when I'm bored. I do this because it's a hobby, not because this is my lifestyle, But some people want to make this their lifestyle, and that's okay, Everybody has different wants. Everybody has different desires and fantasies, and that's all right. But to hinder the growth of that person, not only are you trying to identify them as a person they no longer are anymore, but you're probably stopping future growth, not only in them, but in other people who see how caustic what you say and what you do is. And seeing as it's become somewhat of a staple among certain Stan communities, that can be really bad, Because here's the thing. You could be part of a Stan community, and you could dissent a certain creator that's not, the person you like, the person you hyperfixate on, and you have no issue. You have no issue whatsoever targeting them and destroying them. This happened with, what's his name? A6D, I think his name is. He said a certain word, and when people brought it up and said, hey, you said this, and he's like, yeah, I said it, I own up to it. And people got mad at him for it. And when he was really good friends with big content creators like Skeppy and Bad Boy Halo and the Dream Team and blah, 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 he no longer was allowed to associate with them because he owned up to his actions. I mean, he also said he doesn't regret his actions, but you don't see him. I mean, I haven't seen him using those words since. But the thing is, that's not my point. My point is, they kind of destroyed, or definitely leveled to a certain extent, a different creator, right? But let's put their creator in the scope, right? Let's say this isn't going to happen, probably, but let's say Dream. Somebody finds out Dream did something horrible, right? A lot of people who don't like Dream, by the same logic, now have the right to try to quote unquote cancel him because he did something that was super fucked up at some point, and he no longer deserves the spotlight he had. He's no longer that person, and he's helped a lot of people out, in life since then. But because of something he did many, many years ago, when he's a wee little Ute, he can no longer help people grow. He can no longer grow himself, and he can no longer entertain people. And that's not to say that there aren't. That's not to say that there aren't some people who don't deserve it, but I can guarantee you, 99% of the people who who deserve it. Correction, who 99% of people who get canceled probably don't deserve it. Oh my god, I don't have any arrows. Oh my god, it just keeps coming. Cool. What was I saying before? Yeah, most of the people who that happens to do not deserve it, you know? Most of these people have grown past what they did. People can recognize mistakes, believe it or not. People have the same conscience you do. Most people, you know, unless they're like a psychopath. But the majority of people aren't psychopaths. Psychopaths make up a very, very small percentage of the general population. So if you go into there with a mindset saying, I'm going to destroy this person because I don't like them or I don't care about them, they did this bad thing that I don't like, and I'm sure they haven't grown when they probably have, then you are not helping anybody. Destroying does not help anybody. So that's my first point, I guess. Not really related to what he said, but it's something, I guess it is because it goes into like the toxic part of it, but that's more of something I've been thinking about for a while and I just haven't liked. Next thing I wrote down, fan bases and communities aren't bad, but what the idea of a stan Twitter has evolved into, or a stan community has evolved into, has become sort of a social phalanx that will target anyone with ideals or words with friction between them or whoever they hyper-fixate on and the originator of said ideals or words, you know? People fucking kill each other because of different political views these days. That's not part of a world you should want to be in. That's not part of ideal you should want to propagate, be you on the right side or the left side, you know? Obviously, this has nothing to do with politics. Or, correction, very little to do with politics. You could probably figure in somehow, but still. But, what am I going to say? But to, not as just an individual, but as a community, to latch on to somebody and attack them just because the person you idolize says they don't like them, or the person, where was I? Oh, right here. Or, you know, you themselves don't like them, or somebody associated with this idolitic group does not like them, is the wrong idea. It's not good, because you have made a monster out of yourself. You've made a monster out of your community, and by doing so, to an outsider, you kind of have discouraged them from wanting to become part of that community. So you've kind of inadvertently stinted the content creator, whoever you idolize. You've kind of stinted the growth, which you don't want to do, obviously. So it's not good to do that. What else? Telling Josh, the creator of those tweets, to not generalize. Some people keep saying the main argument was people were mad that he was generalizing Stan Twitter. The people were mad that he was saying Stan Twitter as a whole was toxic. He wasn't saying certain individuals are toxic. Why the fuck would you want him to specify certain individuals? That's the wrong fucking idea. If a content creator ever specified a certain individual that was not actively harassing them in a way that bordered on or is illegal, then you should never fucking specify, you know? He has a platform. He has people who follow him, people who like him, just like you or whatever content creator you idolize have people that follow them and idolize them, you know? So if he were to do the same thing, if you did not generalize, then he'd have to get smaller. You can't go from a scope of 100% to 110. You know, you can only go smaller, right? So he's not going to point out certain stan communities, or I guess he has the courtesy to not point out certain stan communities. He talks about Dream, but he doesn't talk about the stan community there. He talks about how Dream as a person acts and how he's grown, kind of. He has nothing to. He didn't say anything directly about the Dream community, from what I saw. I could be wrong, but still, he's not. You want him? It sounds like it just sounds like you're inviting specification. It sounds like you're inviting targeting, which isn't good. You shouldn't do that. Yeah, I don't know what you want right there. You know, you definitely as a content creator with a platform and an audience should not specify certain individuals. You know, you want to point out the certain people in the community that are toxic. These small people who don't have a platform. Correction, they do have the same platform, Twitter, but they don't have the same audience. They're outnumbered by 100 to 1, if not 1,000 to 1, or even 1,000,000 to 1, and you want them to speak up for themselves. You know, you want to. It sounds like you want them to be singled out, so that you can avoid a shared persecution, which isn't going to happen. Just, you know, if it's not you, then don't worry about it. You know, you shouldn't be getting butthurt for something that does not apply to you. That's like the same thing as like not all men. You know, guys who see something that says men suck, you know, or men who do this suck, and then say not all men are, you know, obviously very mistaken about what the message of what's being said is. And that's the same deal. That's the same deal. That's not all fucking not all stands, you know. It's the same deal. It's the same idea. So, you know, if it's a generalization and it doesn't apply to you, then don't worry about it, you know. He's not being racist, he's not being sexist, he's not bordering on any legalities, so it doesn't matter. It does not fucking matter. Just leave it alone, you know? Let me see. My next point was a platform is weaponized incredibly easily. Groupthink and sympathy and hostilities are very common, especially among stan communities. This is true. I mean, it happened. It literally happened with those tweets, you know? Dream himself applied saying you are an idiot, and a bunch of Dream stans hopped on. I don't have to worry about specifying Dream because I'm not a large content creator. I'm not somebody who might even a fraction risk his growth. And I like Dream. You know, I have no problem with Dream. I don't really have a problem with his followers either. But Twitter in itself has become a very toxic place. Outside of stan Twitter, just like everywhere on Twitter is super toxic. It's a horrible place to be. You know, I have a Twitter just so I can see the happenings in the world. I don't have a Twitter so I can actively engage with the community because I've learned from following people on Twitter that actively engaging the community is usually not a good idea because while you yourself might not end up in a toxic situation, you'll be exposed to a toxic situation by just seeing it on your timeline, which is a negative input into your day or your experience in life already. Stan communities, whether they know or not, are so desensitized to emotions of their opponents in the aftermath of the reactions. You know, if a stan community bullied somebody into killing themselves, they would not care. They would not. Either they wouldn't care, they wouldn't know. Is a thing that goes for any community. You know, even if it's not a stan community, but any community with the fanaticism that we see in stan communities today is usually a stan community. You know, it's just the general blanket term of what we put on that kind of fanaticism these days. And yeah, so I really fucking don't like that not a single content creator is siding with him, because there has to be I mean, look, there are a lot of things he said that I don't agree with, but there has to be there has to be one content creator who sympathizes with him. You know, there's got to be a single person out there with a similar platform to his or bigger that's got to be like, you know what, he's kind of right, and they're not saying it, because here's the thing. Content creators don't care about stan communities. They care about their fan base. They care about having a fan base. When the stan community acts as their fan base, then they will care about the fan base. But they don't care if it's just a normal fan base who casually watches their videos or a hyper-fixated community who, in some aspects, is toxic. Of course, they're not going to abide by the toxicity. You know, they're not going to condone that toxicity. But still, even if stan Twitter never was a thing, they wouldn't have cared. They don't care about defending stan Twitter. They care about defending their fan base. You know, if their audience was not on the line, they would not care. I don't care. You know, if I was famous, I would not care because I don't have the position of guarding my audience as my revenue, as my career. You know, these people do. So I get it. I get why they want to save face with their community, but I feel like some people are betraying themselves by doing that. If they truly believe that's on issue, then okay, that's cool, I guess. But there has to be people out there that do believe that it is an issue. You know, there has to be people out there that believe that. And the fact that they're doing that is just kind of really fucking gross to me. The idea that they don't care about their community and they are trying to save face and only save face is just. I mean, I'm not really putting this as one to words as I put in some of my previous ideas or my previous opinions, but it's just that feels really fucking gross to me. That feels grosser than anything else, honestly, to me. Um, yeah. Did I have any other points I wanted to say? I think that was it, but that's just. I don't agree with Josh on most of. Not that's not true. I don't agree with Josh on some of the things he said. He's saying. Well, actually, let me before I say anything stupid, before I say anything that is inaccurate, I'm going to look at what he said again to make sure to see if there's anything I don't agree with, because I know there's things I don't agree with. I remember it last night, but let me think about it. To those who don't understand. So I don't agree that he doesn't like the idea of a community. I mean, he doesn't. It's not like saying he doesn't like the idea of a community. It's saying that he doesn't like the idea of kind of the groupthink of it, right? Which is true because groupthink is almost never good. But as him saying that isn't going to stop it. Groupthink is a sociological construct or a physiological no psychological construct that's going to happen regardless, right? So him saying that it should stop is not going to do anything because it's going to happen inherently in society regardless of whatever he says. And maybe he's thinking that all of this will happen inherently regardless of what he says, but still, it's not him saying that really does nothing. I guess let me see what else I can find. God, I exited out of it like a genius. People complain that I'm picking on a bunch of teenagers, the same people who got upset with me when I said younger people should think before they tweet. Telling me the educated person did not matter, at least be a little consistent. I mean, I don't really know what to say about that. To people who believe I am calling each other or every one of you evil, you are either intentionally or unintentionally misunderstanding. I'm not saying all of the people are bad. I'm saying the culture you can choose to not be a part of is evil. This is self-evident. Every culture is something you choose not to be a part of. The thing is, this is something they've chosen to identify with, right? So, this is something you're going to want to identify with, obviously. So, they're defending their ground because this is something they like. This is something they are into. I don't like the inhumanity in the idea of Stan Twitter, but you're not going to convince people not to be something or not to be in a Stan community just because they choose to be part of it. If they're choosing to be part of it and you offend them, then they're going to be offended. But like I said earlier, get over it. If it doesn't apply to you, if you're not toxic or you feel you're not toxic, then don't lash out. Don't go on the offense. It's okay. By doing that, you are becoming toxic, and obviously it's not something you want to do. I'm starting to lose my conciseness with my points, so I don't want to talk about it much more. But I mean, really, the one thing I want to impart to the nobody that's watching is that content creators do not care what form their audience takes, be it a Stan Twitter or a casual audience. There are a lot of YouTubers out there with similar audiences, similar fan bases. Maybe not the levels of like Dream or people closer to him, but people with similar platforms to some of the slightly lesser, slightly smaller content creators that still are roughly on that level. They do not care what form that takes. These people, I'm sorry, I kind of lost track for a second. These people who have those similar audiences don't necessarily have Stan Twitters or Stan communities. I mean, and that's and they like their community just the same. They interact with their community just the same. You know? Why do I keep feeling like I'm passing up? No, I'm not. Okay. Yeah, I got some stuff. A staying community is not a community that is a fan base. A staying community is a community and a fan base that is overzealous in what they do. Oh, I didn't know that stopped you. Overzealous in what they do, and proceeds to attempt to destroy or engage in toxic behavior with people they don't agree with, or people who dissent or disavow the person they hyperfixate on. One thing I've heard to say was that a lot of the people defending Stan Twitter, in reply to Josh, are saying that, you know, a lot of people with mental illnesses, or, you know, specifically hyperfixations, hyperfixate on these people to try to limit and control, you know, the range of their illnesses or the range of their hyperfixations. But the thing is, hyperfixating on somebody as opposed to something is not necessarily a good thing, you know? There's been that's how stalkers are made, you know? A lot of celebrities who have stalkers, those stalkers have had mental illnesses before. Obviously, some of them don't have diagnosed mental illnesses, you know? Not all of them are going to be mentally ill, but a large number of those people have had mental illnesses before. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm not saying people who have mental illness and hyperfixate are going to become stalkers and, cross the law at some point. But those stalkers got to that place somehow, you know? They got there somehow. And, you know, maybe people are going to fucking hate what I'm saying, and that's okay. I understand that. I don't mind, you know? If you want to talk about it, let's talk about it. I'm not an expert on anything to do with mental illness or sociological constructs, you know? But it doesn't take an expert to see what's going on. It doesn't take an expert to know the morals of the situation, to see the toxicity of the situation. And trust me, I've seen more than enough of the toxicity that's happened within these communities. It's fucking horrible. You know, people say BTS fans especially are toxic, and then BTS fans say they aren't, and then they dox people. Doxing somebody regardless of what's happening, unless they are threatening the law, is a fucking horrible idea. You know, fucking the actress, what's her name, Sky Jackson, doxing middle school boys for saying racial slurs, even though they are saying racial slurs, is not a good idea. That's fucking horrible. That's inhumane. You know, getting their private information, their personal private information away, just because they made dumb decisions with their middle schoolers is stupid. It's I can't fathom why you'd want to do such a thing. Of course, what they're saying is not good. They're saying racial slurs, and that is far from fucking good. But the thing is, they do not threaten the law or you or anybody else. They have not, you know, crossed any kind of legality at all, you know. And you have personally supplied millions of people with the communities they live with, or they live in, the places they go to school, and, you know, the identities of their families by doing that, you know? And that's not okay. That's not okay at all. Not in the slightest, no matter the age of the person, but especially a kid. You know, I'm not trying to be high and mighty about this, but it's hard to see people who in real life would be extremely humane, you know, extremely sympathetic, take to the internet and try to disavow trolls or try to destroy trolls by, guess what, using the same logic they use, using the same methods they use in calling it just. It's insane. I don't agree with everything Josh has said. I definitely don't agree with his aggression, but I agree with his disgust of what certain fan bases have become. It's really shitty to see. You know, I get a lot of toxic stuff retweeted onto my timeline all the time. You know, people indifferent about violence against somebody or indifferent about death against somebody because of something they either could be misunderstanding completely or just something they don't agree with. You know, if it, even if it's above, or correction, below the law, then still, that doesn't make you much better than those people that are perpetrating those actions in the first place. In fact, that just puts you on the same level. And that's like fucking movie logic, you know? You know, if you kill the bad guy, you're no better than them. But still, that's technically true. You have become the very person you wish to destroy in that case. And it's just, I don't know. I don't like the whole situation. Josh voiced his disgust of something, and it became a thing way too big because people got offended by it. And it's, you know, if you're offended by it, let go. If you become toxic and you try to, you know, say rude things to him, you're what he's talking about. You know, if you're not toxic and you have nothing to worry about, this is not for you. Like what I said earlier, you know, the not all men thing, or not all white people thing. Oh, nice. You know, if somebody says something about a certain race or a certain gender, then first of all, it's technically sexist. Second of all, or racist. Second of all, it doesn't matter if you're not a perpetrator of that action. You know, I'm a cis heterosexual white male. I don't get offended by fucking tweets against cishet white males. You know, I don't mind. I don't care. I know a lot of them, obviously, because, you know, a majority of people are them. I don't mind. I understand some of the motivations behind some of the things that these people say, you know. So obviously, my point is, if you're offended by what Josh has said and you feel offended, even though you're not a toxic person, then don't care about it, you know. But if you're letting it affect you and you're saying things back that are just as caustic as you think he's being, or even more caustic, then you're exactly the kind of person he's talking to. So just stop it, you know. Just be better, rise above, you know. Just don't care about it. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's kind of all I gotta say about this. I'm gonna be traveling a lot for the next month or so. On my way to Washington. I'm gonna try to stream. It's probably gonna be pretty sparse. You know, thanks for watching if people are watching. Thanks for following if people do follow, and thanks for even looking at the existence of my channel if you have done that. You know, I appreciate everybody being here, even if after this they hate me, or you know, if they don't. I appreciate you all here being here regardless. You know, if you have a specific standpoint on this that you are willing to debate with me, please talk to me about it. You know, I'd love to talk to somebody about this. You know, I don't get the option to talk to debate with people in a I don't want to say safe, but in a patient setting, I guess is what I'm going to say. I don't get the option or the possibility. I don't get the option to do that very often, you know. So I definitely appreciate it. So yeah, I'm gonna peace out, I guess. I'll clear this out off camera. I should probably do some work off camera anyways. I haven't done any before, so maybe it's not a bad idea. Okay. Yeah, thanks for watching. Have a good one. Hopefully I can get out of here in time and I could get to where I need to be faster so I can keep giving all 11 of my followers decent content, if you can consider my content decent. Okay. Peace out.